start by saying it's a really tough day for the city of Jersey City. You know, in these sort of situations, you often hear, as we're discussing, that when you lose an officer, they say he was a great officer and he took pride in his job, and they tell you all the great things about what he did for Jersey City, or she did. And in this situation, it happens to be true 100%. The officer's name is Joe Seals. Joe was with the department since 2006, and even more than being a police officer that loved Jersey City, that was probably responsible for, or one of the leading officers for the most guns getting off the street, from what I understand. He was also a husband and a father of 5 children. So it's a tough day for Jersey City. Joe was somebody who was involved in the city, who officers in other precincts knew who he was because he was a good cop. And so I wanted to turn it over to the director and then ultimately to the police chief that led the situation today, and maybe explain in a little bit more detail what happened, and if we can answer some questions. So I'll turn it over to Chief Mike Kelly.
Chief, can you tell us your name, sir?
Michael Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y. So today at around 12:30, we received a call of shots fired in the area of 223 MLK Drive, Martin Luther King Drive. Units responded and were immediately engaged by high-powered rifle fire. A citywide assist was called. At that time, we were learning at the same time that we had another officer down in another part of the city, down on Garfield Avenue by Caven Point. I don't know the exact address. That officer since been listed as deceased. That is Joseph Seals, detective with our ceasefire unit. More on Joe in a little bit. Our unit set up a perimeter, 223 MLK. We had a citywide assist. We called for mutual aid from our partners. Our partners began with the FBI, Port Authority, all surrounding municipalities, ATF, just about all the folks that were within earshot of us responded. At that time, we set up a tactical advantage, continued to take gunfire for hours. Our officers were under fire for hours. 2 more police officers were hit by gunfire. 1 sustained an injury to the shoulder. 1 sustained another injury to the body. Those officers have since been released from the hospital. They are Ray Sanchez and Farinella Fernandez. Once again, we're happy they're all right. However, Joseph Seals succumbed to the gunshot wounds that he received. At that time, we started to piece some information together. Everything I tell you is preliminary. The investigation will take weeks, maybe months. The crime scene is very extensive and is at 3 locations at least. At this time, we have 1 stolen U-Haul vehicle that may contain an incendiary device. That has since been taken from the location and is being examined by our bomb squad members. Secondly, we have 5 people, DOA, inside the store that members of the police force that set up. Eventually, we declared them DOA. We believe 2 of them are bad guys, and we believe 3 of them are not. That may be civilians that were inside the store. Once again, this is all preliminary information. But you should know that the police department in Jersey City and our partners did an extraordinary job under very difficult circumstances, under high-power rifle fire, where no other citizens in Jersey City were struck with gunfire, and our police officers were brave until finally the threat was neutralized. And that's it for now. Everything else is preliminary.
Can you tell us about the officers, sir, that is deceased?
Joseph Seals is a veteran police officer of over 15 years. Came out in our South District where this took place. South District is a very busy precinct, one of the busiest in the state of New Jersey, and has a high volume of violent crime. Joe Seals was promoted to the rank of detective within the last couple of years and assigned to the city's ceasefire unit. As the mayor alluded to, He was our leading police officer in removing guns from the street. Dozens and dozens of handguns he's responsible for removing from the street. As the mayor alluded to also, he's married with children. And our hearts go out to him. And once again, we believe that he was killed while trying to interdict these bad guys at that other location on Garfield Avenue. Once again, this is all being investigated.
With guns, is that what he was trying to interdict?
We believe yes.
This was not the cemetery, or this was the cemetery?
This is the cemetery incident.
Chief, there have been reports that this was part of a post-homicide investigation, possible initially. Is that correct?
Those are all potentialities that are being looked into.
So was he off duty in Garfield and Cemetery, or what was he doing there?
No, Detective Seals was working.
He was working and he came across the suspect?
You know, I really don't want to get into those details. I can just say that he came upon bad guys, and I don't know how he got there just yet.
He's a detective?
He's a
You
detective.
said there
Was he
were
plain
3
clothes?
locations, right?
Yes.
So it was cemetery, the
Yes, and I consider the U-Haul van, a stolen van, crime scene.
Chief, this obviously underscores the danger of police work. I mean, today we saw a residential neighborhood that basically turned into a battlefield with these men and these high caliber weapons. Have you ever seen anything like this in your years of police work, sir?
Unfortunately, we've had many incidents where we've lost police officers and against high-powered weapons. So, and I refer you to 2009, Detective Mark Donato lost his life.
Forgive me, you said two bad guys.
They're both male?
guys? Or-
Right now, preliminarily, we believe they're both male.
Okay, because there was some reports before that it was a female and a male, but you're saying it was just a...
Preliminarily, we believe they're both male.
And only two shooters at this time?
Two shooters at this time.
There was some talk about at one point one of the gunmen going on top of roofs and jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Can you talk about that?
We're not going to get into the details of 4 hours of police work, but I can tell you their movement was rapid and continuous for 4 hours within that area.
Sir, could you tell us in relation to the U-Haul vehicle, was that stolen prior to the incident in the cemetery, or did they hijack that vehicle and then they went onto the bodega or the grocery store?
Detectives are following that information now.
Are the gunmen still alive?
We believe no.
and you said there was a device in the U-Haul.
That is being investigated now.
Do you believe the officers were hit only by gunfire from the suspects? Do you believe any of the victims may have been hit by
We do.
officers?
We think that this was all bad guy fire.
Even the 3 DOAs in the grocery store?
Yes.
So can you
What
talk
can you
about
tell us about
van?
the bad guys? Can you give us age, race?
When we left the crime scene 25 minutes ago, we came down. We rushed down to see Detective Seals and that family, who are mourning right now, and the rest of the crime scene was being handled by deputy chiefs on scene.
Was the detective ever brought to the hospital, or he was pronounced dead at the scene?
I don't know the answer to that.
Sir, where did you say the other 2 officers were hit? In what of the 3 locations?
One was struck in the shoulder, and the other one, I believe, was struck in the body.
As far as
where were
scene?
they hit? Like, where did it happen that they were hit?
Don't know the answer to that.
Could you give us the condition that Officer Sanchez is in right now, sir?
Sanchez was released from the hospital.
Both officers, you said, were released.
Correct.
Can you tell us about those officers? What are they like? How many years of service do they have?
I'm going to have to defer to that until later on. I don't really know those 2 officers. I can just tell you they were very, very brave with a whole bunch of other men and women out there.
Sir, can we talk at all? I know it's very early, but anything about possible motive?
No, we have no, the investigation is going to continue for a long time. We have no inkling what the motive was yet.
So I know that this is obviously a horrific experience for the police, but can we talk about the community? I mean, schools on lockdown, the hospital on lockdown.
Yeah.
I mean, shots fired in these residential areas. Can you speak to that and how difficult it might have been for your officers to respond to something like that?
I think this is a neighborhood that's up and coming. This neighborhood has had challenges and has become a much, much safer and better neighborhood over the last 2 years or the last 3 years or so. So we can only say that folks that live in the neighborhood are supportive of the police department, and they were out there today showing their support wholeheartedly, and especially for those officers that are wounded.
Chief, on the suspects, any gang affiliation? Are you looking at that whatsoever?
Can I mind?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'd just like to add that.
Your name, please, sir?
Yeah, I'm the Public Safety Director, James Shea. I'd just like to add to what the Chief said. This would be a horrific incident in any neighborhood, anywhere in the world, of course. But I think it needs to be noted, and I know the people in Jersey City know, that under the Chief's leadership, the police department immediately was on the scene interjecting. Most active shooters end when the police arrive. In this case, one of our officers gave his life immediately trying to prevent what subsequently occurred. Then 2 more officers were shot trying to prevent it. And the Jersey City Police Department continued to respond and engage those people to minimize any possible damage. So while no one wants this to happen anywhere. We'd all give anything to have Detective Seals back and the other people who passed away today. But there is no question that the Jersey City Police Department did what they are supposed to do to protect the people in that neighborhood. And I'm sure the people in that neighborhood saw that.
Mayor, there were schools in the area. There were schools that went on lockdown. What was the response like for those schools, and did you get a sense of what happened?
We were in touch with the Board of Education immediately, and then there were some schools in the area that were unaffiliated with the Board of Education. We had a police presence at the schools actually during the day, so it was one of the first things that we did, and then we dealt with an active shooter situation for the better part of 4 hours. For the last 3 years, we've invested a lot of resources, unfortunately, in active shooter situations. This is the second active shooter situation that the JCPD has had to deal with in about a year. One was at Newport, and this is the second one. And so while I believe that we have the best police department anywhere, it's just unfortunate that we have to deal with this, and it's tragic what happened today.
Mayor,
how many schools were on lockdown?
What is your message for the people then? You said there's 2 active shooters in a year. What's your message to
Well,
the people?
I don't think that when you see active shooter situations, it's isolated to one city. So I don't think you should take that. We have the best police department anywhere, and that was demonstrated today. The chief did a phenomenal job commanding the situation. It was challenging not only because of the situation that was there, but he was managing multiple resources, from state resources to the Port Authority. We had the NYPD there, and he did a phenomenal job, and he deserves a lot of credit under a really tough situation.
Has the mayor speak to those other agencies that were also taking part of this operation?
Chief, do you want
Just all the other police departments that jumped in to help.
Do you want to talk about the other police
to say about that?
Oh my God, we're so blessed to have such fine law enforcement in the state of New Jersey. And I can only tell you some of the law enforcement agencies we saw there, like I said from the top, the FBI, Port Authority, New York, New Jersey, Essex County, Bergen County, I didn't see Newark, but jeepers, they were all there, and their support was greatly appreciated. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that NYPD responded, and NYPD, listen, those folks are the best in the business, as well as the New Jersey State Police.
Chief,
we heard a lot of
terror or hate crimes have been ruled out at this point?
That's part of the investigation. I can tell you we have no evidence that's pointing in that direction at this time, but that's certainly on the table.
As far as weapons, how many you were recovered? What type?
That was still a hot scene when I left, and we had not recovered the weapons.
We heard a lot of engagement. Do you get a sense of how many shots were fired and exchanged during all of this? A rough estimate?
Hundreds.
Can you tell us how old Detective Seals was?
Nope, it would be a guess. He's got 5 children, so I'm going to say he was in his 40s.
Do we know if the suspects have any gang affiliation?
We don't know that.
And the 3 civilians in the bodega that were found dead, what would you say are they?
Once again, that's preliminary. We believe that there are 3 civilians. This is all, anytime you do a press conference like this, it's very, very difficult to come here because the scene is just breaking down now. So I'm sorry, I cannot give you information on the actors, and I cannot give you information on the civilians because I don't know.
Detective Seals' family, did you speak with the family? Did anybody speak with
The mayor,
directly?
the public safety director, the police director, and myself went to the hospital and spoke with Detective Seals' family, and obviously paid our tribute to Detective Seals.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
Can you talk
Mayor's
to
Nation,
us?
thank
I will
you.
tell you, we cried with the family. It's one of the hardest things that you ever have to see in your entire life. I mean, nobody expected, I'm sure, Detective Seals not to return home. I'm sure his children expected him to return home. And, sometimes people don't appreciate the tough work that these police officers do every single day. Every day they put on that uniform and they take their life into their own hands, and they do it for the better part of a city like Jersey City. Every single day we get reports of guns being taken off the street, and most of the time that's done without anybody being injured, which speaks to the type of work that these people do, and they're heroes. And it's really tough to see the situation there today. There's no other way to explain it.
Sir,
All right, guys.